Ever find yourself spiraling down one of those truly bizarre internet rabbit holes?
Happens all the time.
Lately,
Hmm.
the big one seems to be 100 unarmed men versus one silverback gorilla. It's just, it's pure internet gold, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. It's definitely captured the collective imagination, the sheer volume of posts, memes, theories. It's quite remarkable.
Absolutely. We saw that Mr. Beast tweet, you know, even if it was just a joke,
Right.
and it just completely exploded. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, everyone's got a take.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It does have that same kind of viral energy like we saw back with Harambe.
Exactly. Now, for you listening, you're probably here because you're curious, right?
Yeah.
You want the lowdown, the interesting bits without getting totally
It's
logged
one
out.
tell without the endless scrolling.
Precisely. And that's what we're aiming for.
Mm.
This is our deep dive into this wonderfully strange question.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and make it, entertaining too.
Definitely. And while the whole idea is, let's be honest, pretty absurd, looking at it through the lens of biology and expert opinions, it actually reveals some fascinating stuff.
Right. About nature, strength, maybe how we see
Yeah,
ourselves.
exactly. Perceptions of power, vulnerability.
So, okay, we're going to dissect this. All angles. We'll look at the gorilla's raw power spoiler. It's a lot.
A lot.
Then the human side, the potential strategies or maybe the lack thereof, and what actual experts are saying.
We'll even touch on different types of humans, right? Average Joes versus athletes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, good point. And our intel for this,
Yeah.
well, it comes from zoological data, expert commentary like from NPR and The Times, and of course the wild west of internet reactions. Newsweek, Economic Times, they covered the buzz too.
A good mix of sources for a weird topic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's kick things off. Let's get acquainted with the star of this hypothetical rumble, the silverback gorilla.
Makes sense. We need to establish just how, well, formidable these animals really are.
Think of them like, I don't know, nature's ultimate bouncers.
Yeah.
Furry, muscular tanks, right? Tipping the scales at, 400 to 500 pounds.
Easily. And it's dense muscle. Their arms, too, not just longer than ours, but built for a completely different level of power.
Okay, so the strength, that's the big one. How much stronger are we talking?
The disparity is almost unbelievable, really. Estimates suggest a silverback has maybe 4 to 10 times the strength of a highly trained human athlete.
10 times, wow.
Yeah. And when you look at lab studies, they show gorillas lifting over 800 kilograms,
800 kilos, that's like a small car.
pretty much, or bench pressing figures around 1,800 kilograms. Just puts things into perspective, you know?
Puts my gym routine to shame.
There's a zookeeper quote we found, very blunt, basically saying they could likely tear a human arm off just easily.
Okay, that's sobering.
Yeah.
And it's not just the lifting strength, is it? There's the bite, too.
Oh, absolutely. Got to factor that in. A silverback's bite force, around 1,300 psi, pounds per square inch.
How does that compare?
Well, it's roughly twice as powerful as a lion's bite.
Twice a lion. Good grief.
Primarily, they use it for, crushing tough plants, bamboo, stuff like that. But in a fight, a single bite could inflict just catastrophic damage, potentially fatal.
Right. Focused on an arm, a leg, torso.
Yeah, devastating.
Okay, so immense strength, bone-crushing bite. What about speed and agility? You picture something that big being, I don't know, slow.
That's a really common misconception, actually. Despite the bulk, they can sprint. We're talking 20 to 25 miles per hour in short bursts.
Faster than most people can run flat out.
Exactly. A quarter ton of muscle moving that fast. Plus, they're surprisingly agile climbers. So you have this combo. Incredible power, a big frame, but also speed and dexterity.
It really paints a picture of the challenge, doesn't it, for our 100 guys?
Absolutely. Primatologist Tara Stoinski really highlights this. She talks about their incredible upper body strength and those really strong jaw muscles. Any strike, any charge, massive impact.
It makes you think about how we even measure strength, right?
Mm.
Like a healthy guy might bench press, 100, 150 pounds, maybe more if they train.
Right. But a gorilla's one-arm strength likely blows that away. The power difference is just, it's staggering.
Agreed. The silverback is a serious force. Now let's flip it. Let's consider the opposition. 100 unarmed men. And like you said, let's maybe break this down. Scenario 1, 100 just average guys.
Yeah.
Everyday people.
Right. This scenario, it immediately brings to mind potential chaos, panic.
Totally.
Facing a creature like that, the psychological impact on untrained people would likely be just overwhelming.
Yeah, you might think, oh, sheer numbers. But a disorganized mob rushing a gorilla, that power we just talked about.
It becomes devastating. A cornered gorilla feeling threatened by this mass of people, it could inflict serious harm so quickly. A few swipes, a charge.
Game over for a few people right away.
Precisely. We saw one online comment, pretty graphic, suggesting the gorilla would rip people's arms off and beat them with their own limbs.
Okay, yeah, vivid. But it gets the point across.
It underscores the potential for just horrific injuries. And, experts like Michelle Rodriguez point out wild gorillas usually try to avoid fights. They're defensive.
But if forced into it.
The power imbalance is just overwhelmingly in its favor.
All right. So average Joe's probably not looking good. Let's up the ante. Scenario 2, 100 athletes. Peak physical condition. Be football players, wrestlers, that sort of thing.
Okay, this definitely changes things a bit. You've got improved speed, agility, maybe better coordination, teamwork potential.
But still, that power gap.
Exactly. They're still fundamentally outmatched in raw strength. The sources noted they're still not uncatchable. A gorilla can still close the distance.
What about endurance? I read somewhere primates might tire out quicker than humans over a long time.
That's a factor, yeah. Stacy Rosenbaum mentioned this. Gorillas maybe aren't endurance fighters. So in a really, really drawn-out encounter, human stamina could potentially play a role.
But does that stamina matter if the gorilla takes out 10 guys in the first minute?
That's the crux of it. It doesn't negate the immediate devastating threat. People online suggested tactics, like mass tackles, trying to hold the legs.
Like a rugby scrum gone wild.
Sort of. But imagine the chaos once the first few people are, incapacitated. Or worse, how effective is that coordination then? Fear takes over.
It's hard to see a coordinated plan holding up against that kind of brutal, immediate damage. So fitness helps, maybe lets them dodge a bit more, last a bit longer, but that core power difference.
It remains the critical factor, it seems.
Okay, final human scenario. The elite. 100 trained fighters, MMA guys, maybe special forces types without weapons, peak condition, combat skills.
Right now we're talking elite athleticism, honed fighting skills. But, crucially, no rules here. No ref, no tap-outs.
It's a fight to the finish. Even so, the expert opinions still seem pretty grim for the humans.
Yeah, Conor McGregor's tweet, probably joking but maybe telling, guaranteeing the gorillas win.
And Darren Till, whose nickname is the Gorilla, even he seemed to lean towards the actual gorilla.
It shows a recognition, even among fighters, of that sheer primal power. Ron McGill, the Zoo Miami guy, he was very blunt.
What did he say?
He suggested a human victory might be theoretically possible, but only as, and this is his term, a kamikaze mission.
Kamikaze mission. Yikes!
Yeah, expecting death and serious injury. Even with the coordinated wave attack, as some suggested, success, if it happens, comes at a horrific cost.
Wow. That really puts it into perspective, even for the absolute best human fighters.
It makes you question how effective human fighting techniques really are against that kind of raw power. Tarstoinski did mention, the theoretical possibility. Sheer numbers, persistent attacks over time, maybe overwhelm it. Theoretically. But the practical reality, those likely initial casualties, it makes it a very, very grim prospect.
It certainly does. Okay, so we've looked at the gorilla's toolkit, the human variable. Let's circle back and really focus on what the different experts concluded.
Yeah, it's interesting because they come from slightly different angles, but the core message is quite consistent.
Right. Tara Stoinski, Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund. She hammers home those key advantages again, right? Size, weight, that upper body strength, a monstrous advantage, she called it.
She did, but she also acknowledged the human numbers. If you imagine a long enough timeline, true coordination, sustained attacks, she concedes, theoretically, a group could possibly overwhelm one.
Okay. And then Stacy Rosenbaum, University of Michigan, she brought up that endurance point again.
Right. Gorillas aren't endurance fighters. They'd likely tire out faster than a large group of humans in a prolonged struggle.
Which could be an opening.
It could, but again, surviving the initial onslaught to get to that prolonged stage is the massive hurdle. The gorilla's bursts of power, those rapid, devastating attacks, they remain the immediate, the overwhelming threat.
And then Ron McGill just brings us crashing back to Earth with that kamikaze mission line.
He really does. He's clear. The humans might win eventually, but expect massive losses. It just highlights that fundamental difference in one-on-one or even one-on-several combat capability.
And Michelle Rodriguez adds that other perspective, reminding us gorillas are usually gentle giants.
Yeah, they avoid conflict unless defending family. It makes the whole idea of a staged fight feel pretty artificial, very human-centric.
Like we're imposing our rules on nature.
Exactly. So the expert consensus seems to be, yes, 100 humans could, maybe, technically, subdue a gorilla through sheer attrition, but it would almost certainly involve fatal losses, likely many.
And Stoinski's point is crucial. The real question isn't who wins this fantasy fight.
It's about gorilla conservation, protecting them in the wild.
Absolutely puts the whole silly internet debate in perspective.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of the internet, let's look at how the online world reacted to this. Because, wow.
Oh, yeah. It's always fascinating, isn't it, how the internet grabs onto something so outlandish and just runs with it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Even PETA chimed in, didn't they?
Yeah.
With that kind of sarcastic comment about maybe let's not involve animals in hypothetical fight content.
You could almost hear the eye roll.
Yeah.
And then just the explosion of jokes and memes.
Oh, the memes were incredible. The scenarios people dreamed up. Survivors fleeing, the gorilla collecting arms like trophies. It's dark humor, but clearly it struck a chord.
It really did. And the battle plans. On Reddit, on TikTok. Sometimes incredibly detailed, often just hilarious.
Forming human circles, using banana peels, people fully embracing the absurdity. Did you see those stick-figured animations?
Oh, yeah. The little stick figures just getting absolutely launched by the gorilla.
Totally. They visually nailed that power difference, even just comedically. Kind of drives home the likely reality, you know?
For sure. And then celebrities jumping in just poured gasoline on the fire.
Right. McGregor backing the gorilla, Bo Nickel volunteering for Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
Maybe joking, maybe not. Who knows?
It just propelled the meme even further, made it a shared cultural moment almost.
And it properly went viral. Hashtag 100 Men vs. Gorilla was everywhere. News outlets picked it up, usually with a chuckle, noting that, yeah, pretty much everyone thought the gorilla wins.
It felt a bit like those old lion versus tiger debates. Or, yeah, definitely echoes of Harambe, like sort of modern folklore.
It speaks to our fascination with these wild what-ifs, doesn't it? And maybe a sort of respect for nature's power, even when it's framed as a joke.
I think so. At the end of the day, the internet had fun with it. A shared understanding of the ridiculousness turned into, as the sources said, comedy gold.
Okay, so after the biology the expert takes, the internet madness, what's the final verdict? The definitive answer to this bizarre question. Who wins?
Well, based on everything we've looked at, all the evidence, the conclusion is pretty unavoidable. The gorilla wins.
Yeah.
That overwhelming strength advantage we talked about right at the start, it's just too much for 100 unarmed humans. Doesn't really matter if they're average guys, athletes, or fighters.
That summary quote nailed it. The silverback strength is simply too much to overcome. Even the people arguing for the humans, they usually admitted, okay, yeah, in a real fight, gorilla dominates. Any human win would be gruesome.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to circle back. This was a viral thought experiment, mostly for laughs. The reality, like Michelle Rodriguez said, wild gorillas, gentle giants. They avoid conflict.
And like all the experts stressed, the real focus should be conservation. Let's maybe use some of that energy to protect these animals, not fantasize about fighting them.
Well said. The key takeaway really should be respect, conservation, understanding their power, but also their vulnerability.
So wrapping it up, 100 humans might theoretically, maybe, have a tiny chance through sheer attrition and unimaginable costs.
A catastrophic cost.
Right. But the reality, the gorilla's immense power makes it the clear winner in this hypothetical, and let's hope always hypothetical, showdown.
Which does leave us with maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Oh, go on.
Thinking about evolution, how human strength and social structures developed versus primates. What do these kinds of viral questions, these thought experiments, really tell us about how we perceive power and our own vulnerability maybe in the grand scheme of the natural world?
That is definitely something to think about. A lot deeper than just memes. Thanks for taking this very interesting deep dive with us today.
A pleasure. It was memorable.